GDPR and CCPA continuous compliance challenges. How to operationalize continuous remediation. For the purposes of this walkthrough, we're really going to focus on the governance of personally identifiable information, or PII, and how to operationalize data subjects' rights throughout enterprise data. The key question that many organizations are asking is, how vulnerable are we to a data privacy breach, which could cost millions in penalties, brand damage, and more? Across many vertical markets, there are some top 10 board-level challenges in assessing the risk. What is the risk exposure? There are staggering non-compliance penalties, the brand damage associated with it, and a potential bottom line impact on the financial situation of an organization. 2, data and applications. Understanding what data exists across the enterprise is a challenge enough, but how do you identify and secure PII throughout it? Also, what applications are in scope, and how do they have an impact on the whole governance framework? 3, the regulations themselves carry a lot of weight, and there are some ambiguities and room for interpretation in terms of what is a direct and indirect identifier for what business purpose, etc. Also, we have to take into mind that there are different nuances between GDPR and CCPA, and just using a GDPR approach can make an organization under or over compliant with CCPA. Data subjects' rights. It's paramount that an organization identifies all PII and has the ability to delete any PII upon request that isn't subject to other retention policies. 5, operational challenges of data subject requests are vast. If an organization hasn't mapped out all of its data and identified PII, it would require substantial manual processes, which are risky and costly to an organization in order to fulfill these requests. Governing PII. A customized and executable policy approach is vital in terms of mapping out your framework and how to respond to any requests from data subjects or consumers. 7, manual processes. It's clear that many organizations will hire teams and build out a people and process framework within the organization to address many of these challenges. However, relying solely on manual processes will fail to identify PII and sustain compliance. 8, not one size fits all. PII is complex, and the identification of it cannot be a cookie-cutter approach. It's paramount that companies do not rely on pre-canned models in order to classify and identify all of their PII. 9, post-breach PII identification. Organizations must have mapped out all of the PII throughout the organization in order to be able to notify affected data subjects accordingly. And 10, application risk and patching. Many organizations are using manual processes for patching, which are costly, risk-prone, and cannot keep up with new vulnerabilities. Some fundamental questions regarding information governance, or in this case, PII governance. Who has access to it? What kind of PII do you have? Where is it? When is it disposed? Why is it needed? And how is it used? It's incredibly challenging for an organization to answer all of these questions with certainty without having a technological framework or solution in place. Some key data challenges around both regulations include the ability to remediate sensitive data, or PII, to achieve compliance, and to operationalize it. Data privacy practices cannot Stephen, I'm starting the slide over. There are some key data challenges for both regulations. Remediate. How does an organization deal with issues regarding sensitive data to achieve compliance? In the example of a data subject access request and the right to be forgotten as an example. Operationalizing data privacy practices. Again, relying on manual processes and one-time snapshots of data aren't going to achieve compliance. Sustainability is also a factor. That one-time snapshot, a full index at one given point in time does not mean that you're compliant going forward, as the data landscape has changed as soon as that scan has been completed. Advantech's continuous remediation continuous remediation solution, or CRS, provides a comprehensive information governance platform to operationalize PII identification, classification, and remediation. When we look at different work streams, there are the data issues and the applications issues. Transformational information governance has many components. Assessment. Stephen, this flows a little bit weird. Sorry. Transformational information governance. The initial stages transformational information governance in a solution. The initial stages will perhaps there's been no better time for organizations to implement a transformational information governance program supported by technology, processes, and people. The first stage of our solution involves the assessment. This is where we start to get an indication of volumes across the enterprise where we may not have had these before. Use some customizable dashboards in order to get some snapshots of the trends and characteristics of various repositories. This includes both structured and unstructured data. In the intelligence phase, GPU-powered machine learning is used to refine PII policy and analyze PII with scientific accuracy. In the action phase, 400 plus bidirectional connectors are leveraged in order to execute policy within the solution across all enterprise data. This will automate PII policy and other retention policies, and also operationalizes responses to data subject access requests and the right to deletion. Importantly, continuous remediation with incremental scanning will continue to address new PII, new legislations for data privacy and other mandates, new applications, in a different stream, assess patch updates. In this assessment phase, we're going to look at the initial analysis of all enterprise data, connecting to enterprise data sources in scope, assessing all enterprise data, metadata and ROT analysis for risk mitigation and ROI, and some Boolean content searching to assist with our policy creation and revisions. As you can see, the solution will point to any repository within scope. This is a dummy database, which is important to note, but you get a sense of what the outlay looks like, what data sizes are available, and duplicates found in the initial scans. In this dashboard, we can assess all enterprise data holistically. This is before we've applied any real analysis to the data. You can see repository statistics, managed documents, duplicates, emails created by date, documents created by date, top terms, etc. All of these dashboard panels are customizable. And again, please keep in mind that this is dummy data. In the assessment phase, we can also perform a ROT analysis. Excuse me. Stephen, I'm starting this over. In the assessment phase, within our ROT analysis, we can start to identify duplicates, some of which may or may not contain PII at this stage. You can see that the parent document has been identified and duplicates are found in other repositories with varying access rights, and this must be addressed. Also in the assessment phase, we can perform some Boolean search. Also in the assessment phase, we can perform some Boolean searching across content. You can see here that there are various filters which we can apply. And in the right-hand corner up at the top, we can enter any kinds of Boolean search combinations and assess whatever results come up. Stephen, I'm starting this over. Also in the assessment phase, we can perform some Boolean search across the content. Keep in mind that this is across all data repositories within the organization. There are various filters that can be applied, which you can see on the left. The results of any search in the middle, and you can see on the right-hand upper corner in the yellow box, I've entered a few keywords just to get these results back. We go into the intelligence phase now, which is fundamental in terms of finding data across the enterprise. This includes dark data. Stephen, I'm starting over. Now we get to the intelligence phase. This is where GPU machine learning is used to identify PII across the enterprise and also to finesse PII policies. Identifying PII and other trends with machine learning powered by GPU technology is paramount in terms of speed, accuracy, and providing the ability to quickly identify all PII belonging to data subjects within a stringent time frame. You'll see that we'll begin to use some superclusters in order to assess trends throughout the data sets. We'll start to build a training workflow. We'll create regulation-specific PII models. We will also analyze PII content using natural language processing. And we can also start to define document retention policies applying across the enterprise. Initially, the machine learning is going to start to gather some trends it sees across the data. You can see it creates clusters, and some of the top terms within those clusters are shown. It also shows the quality level or the confidence level in a rating or percentage format, how accurate it thinks this is at this stage without further review. You can also see there's the number of documents hitting these trends. However, more analysis is necessary in order to define what these clusters are. We can start to identify PII with machine learning even just through these trends. Again, this is similar to an early case assessment for those of you who are familiar with eDiscovery technologies. However, it's important to note that this is applying to all data across the enterprise. You can see in the yellow bubble, there's IRS and internal revenue documents, potentially. The quality at this stage without further analysis is somewhat low, but we should click into those and see. With that, we can start to create superclusters. Here we've created PII candidate files, and also we found some data that is more than likely source code files. We're going to create a supercluster for that as well to get it out of the way. We can start to build our training workflow based on these clusters. You can see that all the initial repository data is in the top, and in the two branches below are the clusters that we created just now. You can also see that there are various training items on the right-hand side. At the very bottom, we have a CCPA model checked. Stephen, I'm going to start this one over. Also in the intelligence phase, we can start to build our training workflow. We call this an initial repository assessment training tree. At the top in the middle, we can see these are all of the documents within the enterprise or within scope, under which we see the two superclusters that we created, source code files and PII candidate files. Also on the right-hand side, there are a list of training items, which are fully customizable, that we could apply to any of these clusters within the training tree. Here, we've decided to apply the CCPA model to the PII candidate files. 2 hit as results, and the rest fall out of this. When we dig a bit deeper, in our PII content analysis, we can see that there's a W2 form and a P60, which is a UK equivalent. Within the interface in the solution, we can actually look at the data and in the document. I'm starting over. We can now begin to perform further PII content analysis. You can see here that we've clicked on the W2 form, and yes, it does hold PII from a data subject. We can now look at the P60. Similarly, this data would be deemed PII under GDPR. We can also define additional document retention policies, such as 5-year retention for various. Stephen, I'm starting over. Within our training tree, we can also define additional document retention policies. As an example, we could put a 5-year retention policy on any specific business unit or a business need for retention. As we've gone through the intelligence phase, one of the biggest differentiators of the solution is its ability to action on policy across all enterprise data. So we can apply policy to the identified PII, we can execute data subject access requests and operationalize the right to be forgotten, all in the solution. Much of this can be automated, both CCPA, GDPR, and or other data retention policies across enterprise data, once we're certain that the machine learning is at an acceptable level of risk. This is, again, made all possible by interfacing with the 400 plus bidirectional connectors. As you can see, we have 2 documents hitting the CCPA model, and there's a drop-down menu that says Assign to Policy. In this instance, we may wish to secure this to Proofpoint. However, there are many different policies we can apply. We would be able to dispose of this data within the solution across all instances of. Starting over. Also within the action phase, we're able to automate and operationalize policy across all enterprise data. As you can see, we've taken our CCPA models 2 resulting documents and I've Stephen, I'm going to start this action stuff over. I'm going to go into it now. So now that we've identified a few documents potentially hitting CCPA, we can assign a policy to it. And as you can see in the drop-down menu, there's a plus sign with assigned a policy. In this instance, we may decide to secure this to Proofpoint. However, all of these policies are customizable and are built out according to your organization's needs. These include porting to the cloud, migration. Stephen, I'm starting the slide over. Now that we've identified a few documents potentially hitting our CCPA model, we can now that we've identified a few documents hitting the CCPA model, we can choose from that drop-down menu. Within the drop-down menu, there are many options, all of which are customizable. In this instance, we can see secure to Proofpoint, if that is our decision to make on these two documents hitting our GDPR model, or sorry, our CCPA model. However, there are many actions you can take, and these are all customizable, and they can be built out to be business unit specific as well. This is where, if there was a data subject access request and the right to be forgotten is a result, we can operationalize this and simply click dispose. All instances of that PII belonging to the data subject would be deleted across the enterprise, keeping in mind competing retention policies. As an example, if some of the data were to be under a specific policy, such as a litigation hold, or it's necessary to retain for business purposes, whether it's contractual or the legal necessity to retain it, we can unassign those documents to that policy, and the workflow can be created to make sure that those documents which cannot be deleted will not be. Continuous remediation is enabled throughout this workflow process and also through the solution's ability to action upon data in real time. This will enable continuous remediation as your environment changes. As new PII is created, machine learning identifies and remediates as per your policies. Any changes to your app... Stephen, I'm going to start this over because we have application stuff in here. Continuous remediation is paramount in order to keep your organization in real-time compliance. Our approach enables this as your environment changes. Additionally, when your data changes, for example, new PII is created, machine learning is going to identify it and remediate it as per your policies. In addition, as new data privacy legislation will apply to your organization, additional policy is built out within the solution, and you're able to customize the handling of PII on a per regulation business or as per your business needs. There's no sense in recapping this. All right. I'm just going to go to the front slide. And finish this up. We hope that this walkthrough has been useful. No. We hope that this walkthrough has been useful and gives you a sense of how continuous remediation can operationalize your privacy program. On behalf of the Advantech team, thank you for your time.